Hello everybody! So we are on to lesson 2 of our English for this week. So last lesson we looked at using the word and to join two simple sentences together. Can you remember what the new type of sentence is called once we have joined the two simple sentences together? I will give you a clue. It begins with a k. Let's see. It is called a compound sentence. So when we join two simple sentences with the word and, it makes a compound sentence. So well done if you remembered that. It is really, really important when we are making a compound sentence that each side of the word and makes sense on its own. So for example, the bits in red, she went for a run. If that was a sentence on its own, it would make sense on its own. She fell over. If that was a sentence on its own, it would make sense. So that is the correct use of the word and to join sentences. So each side needs to be able to make sense as a sentence on its own. So what you have got, well, I don't know if you have got, but you will need the activity that says English starter. So if you can, grab that now and cut the sentences up into the strips, or into the boxes that I have put them in on the sheet, and then come back to the video and we will work through it together, sorting them either into and to list or and to make a compound sentence. So hopefully you have now got your sentences in front of you. And what we are going to be doing is looking at the sentences and sorting them into whether it has used and to list or and to make a compound sentence. So and to make a list was the first one that we learned back when we were in school. And then and to make a compound sentence is the one that we learned yesterday. So if we look at this first sentence and you look at that first sentence that you have got in front of you. So you're going to just sort them. You won't have a table in front of you, but you're going to just sort them onto the correct side as it is on my table, okay? So the dog is brown and black. So let's check. Can you remember the way that we check our compound sentence? If it makes sense either side. So the dog is brown. Does that make sense as a sentence on its own? Yes, it does. Black. Is black a sentence on its own? No, it's not. So how have we used and in this sentence? Drag it onto the side you think and let's check. We have used and to list. We've got the dog is brown and black. That bit doesn't make sense as a sentence on its own. Okay, next sentence you should have in front of you. I like chocolate and I like sweets. So remember, our way to check is to check, does each side make sense as a sentence on its own? So I like chocolate makes sense on its own. I like sweets makes sense on its own. Which side are you going to put your sentence on? Are you going to put it on and to list or and to make a compound sentence? Let's check if we got the same. It is and to make a compound sentence because both sides make sense on their own. Okay, next one. She went to the shop and she went to the park. So we'll do our check-in. She went to the shop. Does that make sense on its own? Yes, it does. She went to the park. Does that make sense as a sentence on its own? Yes, it does. So we have got two sentences that have been joined together with the word and. So which side are you going to put it in? Let's check if I've got the same. It is and to make a compound sentence. Next one then. My feet are cold and wet. Does the first part make sense as a sentence on its own? My feet are cold. Yes, it does. Is wet a sentence on its own? It's not. It's a word, but it's not a sentence. So which side are you going to put that one in? Let's check. Hopefully you have got it in. And to list. My feet are cold and wet. Okay, last one then. I swam in the sea and I built a sandcastle. So as you can remember, we need to check each side. So I swam in the sea. Does that make sense as a sentence on its own? Yes, it does. I built a sandcastle. Is that a sentence on its own? Yes, it is. Which side are you going to put it in? Is it and to list or and to make a compound sentence? And let's check. It is to make a compound sentence because it is two sentences that have been joined together to make one compound sentence. So well done if you got all of those correct. Okay, so on to our main part of our learning. So that was our starter. Today we are going to turn ourselves into Traction Man again. So magic wands at the ready. Abracadabra, zoom. You are now Traction Man. And the reason that you are now Traction Man is because you're going to write a letter to home to tell them what we have been up to. We've had a lot of adventures. Traction Man has been up to lots of stuff, but he hasn't seen his family for a while. So he wants to write a letter to home to tell them what he has been doing. So here in his speech bubble it says, "Hi Traction Mum, I have been so busy, I can't wait to tell you all about it." The main thing that we need to use in our letter, so the learning that I am looking for, is the word and to make compound sentences. And we are going to be using some pictures to help us. So there is a sheet of pictures for you to use. And they look like this. There are 4 sets of 2 pictures, so 8 pictures in total. But you're going to write about the pictures and join them together with the word and. So the structure of your sentence will be, I have been, whatever's happening in the first picture, and I have been, whatever is happening in the second picture. So I am going to model to you how I would write my first sentence, and I'm going to do it in red. So I have been, what am I doing in that first picture? Flying in a shoe, and I have been, what am I doing in the second picture? Jumping on the evil pillows. And then I need that all important huh at the end of my sentence. Then I'm going to check, have I made it a compound sentence correctly? I have been flying in a shoe. Does that make sense on its own? Yes, it does. I have been jumping on the evil pillows. Does that make sense on its own? Yes, it does. So I am expecting your sentences to look something like that. But before we start writing, how do we need to start our letter? How do we start a letter? We are going to put, Dear Traction Mum. We're going to write to Traction Mum instead of Traction Man. Dear Traction Man. And we always start our letter with dear or to, so the person knows that we are writing it to them. What are the 3 things that we need to remember in our sentences? We need to remember capital letters, finger spaces, and full stops. And how do we need to end our letter? From Traction Man. Remember, you are not yourself, you are Traction Man, and we need to say who the letter is from, because otherwise the person that's receiving it might not know who it's from. So we're going to start with Dear Traction Mum and end with From Traction Man. So the way I'd like your letter to look, Dear Traction Mum, I have been and I have been And you're going to do that for all 4 sentences and then finish it with From Traction Man. So if it helps, you might like to leave this slide up on your screen and have your pictures in front of you. Good luck, and I'm looking forward to seeing your letters. Remember, finger spaces, capital letters, full stops, and beautiful handwriting. Enjoy!